Good afternoon. So, today was an interesting episode. We decided to just kind of do one on the spot. I was having some drinks, quite a few, so I was a little loopy for this one, but it was a really good time. We talked about the ego death, or little death, or crossing the abyss. It was an awesome conversation. So, without further ado, I hope y'all enjoy it too. Thank you.
It's fine.
I want to do the intro. Okay, you guys, this is familiar.
Make sure
podcast.
you do audio. Yeah.
We're
Audio
drunk.
input.
We're all drunk.
All right, it's recording technically.
All right. This is Familiar Company Podcast. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are in a heartfelt moment, struggling with a plexus in the heart, constantly in between both. I see you, Devi, over there smiling. So tonight with us is Nebula, Twisted, and Lono and Devinium. She joined us just in the past episode.
We're all drunk.
We are all drunk, but this is going to be the best episode ever. So Divinium joined us the other night to talk about spellcraft and the intentions behind manifesting and spellcraft in itself. Today, I am going through a bit of a struggle, and the team has come together to be like, I love you, brother, and let's have a good time. So, today, we're just going to have at it. We're going to be in an open heart conversation. So whatever you hear today, do not hold it against anyone in the room, for this is free flow, and here we go. This is the Familiar Company Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Let's go!
That was very enthusiastic.
Yes.
I like the energy.
Love that.
So earlier we were talking about crossing the abyss, as I'm going through one of the most heart-wrenching moments in my life, which is that of a struggle in a relationship matter. Doesn't matter the specifics, but what matters here is that I have been thrown through the ringer of love, and that I feel the need to cross the abyss, and that I need to see much more than is here with us now. So, with that being said, we have been in a conversation for the past hour about what crossing the abyss entails. And I just want to get a real quick across the room. To each individual in the room with me, Lono, Twisted, and Nebula, and Devi. What does crossing the abyss mean to you? Starting with Devinium.
Oh shoot. Okay. So crossing the abyss would be, I mean, the ego death is always talked about here, where you have a miniature death inside of yourself and you're able to see a wider perspective. In addition, with making contacts energetically with those higher sources. It could be, your higher self, guardian angel, source itself, what have you. So it's really going to be an individual experience, because the way that you experience it is not anything that can be scripted, and the way that it's interpreted by your brain is going to vary from person to person.
That nailed it. Yeah, it's a completely abstract concept. I've come across many maggots in the project of my own recordings, and that every time I ask somebody, what is the crossing of the abyss? It's never the same thing to one person or the other. It's completely different. It's such a spectrum. If you could nail it down, and then that means anyone in this room, if you could nail it down to like 3 or 4 categories of what crossing the abyss is, how would you do so? Yeah, it's that much of a spectrum, isn't it?
Oh God.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're narrowing it down to like 3 or 4, are we talking about like reasons that it would be happening, reasons to do it?
Let's go with reasons.
Okay.
Reasons. Like why one would cross the abyss.
I think pretty plain and simple, just spiritual evolution. And
right.
not just that, but like going ahead and saying, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to have ego death. I'm going to go ahead and detach myself from this, identity that we have. Say, I myself is Twisted, you is Drew, Divinium is Divinium, Nebula is Nebula, Lono is Lono, and go ahead and experience the all. You know what I mean? Like, say, like, hey, look, this
Right.
anchor, not necessarily just in a negative sense, but it's there for a particular positive, beneficial purpose of having us being able to experience this reality as it is. But going ahead and saying, I'm going to shrug that off. I want to experience more so of the grander picture that we don't necessarily experience on a day-to-day basis, and be able to extract from that and take it back with us to this plane and be able to utilize that information and experience for our own benefit. But not just for that, but like as a process of being able to go ahead and break that wheel, samsara, go ahead and throughout our however many lifetimes, right? However many times we incarnate, reincarnate, so on and so forth. At some point, the goal is to go ahead and break that. To be like, hey, look, I'm not going to be just going with the current and just being subject to, the trash compactor known as Shiva, as our good buddy TC calls it. But, be like, hey, look, I can govern when I come out of this cycle, when I drop myself back in, and be able to be like, hey, look, I can help uplift people if I want to, or, truth be told, do whatever the fuck you want. And that sort of thing for whatever ends. Like, if you go ahead and you attain this level of spiritual mastery of yourself, then you can, pretty much do whatever is correct to you, whatever you feel is true to you. So yeah, pretty much that is, a couple of reasons why one would go ahead and engage in this sort of process.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's about reconciling the ego, right?
I mean, it's breaking the ego, getting a wider perspective. Like Twisted was talking about mastery, gaining that mastery. So I mean, that's 3 right there. Do we got any more?
Damn right. I mean, honestly, that's a good starting point, because the crossing of the abyss is all about the little death. It's all about the death of the ego, right? Before the grand death, which is the self, the true self, the body, the mind, and the spirit dying all at once. So where do we go? Where do we go from there? Like, if we as a self are at the ego death, what is the pendulum that swings back from the other side to this side?
The thing is, I'm not sure there is a pendulum that swings at that point. It's almost like in Hermetics, where they talk about literally dismissing themselves from that pendulum swing. Like it swings up,
Yeah.
you step out on the ledge, you're not on that backswing. There is no backswing for you. Because really, once you experience that kind of openness, that kind of awakening, you can say, even though I will say crossing the abyss does not equate a spiritual awakening. The fact that you are consciously aware that there is something else, that is an awakening all in itself. But, I mean, you can't really go back from that.
No, you can't. I remember when I first had my first little death and crossed over, that deep that said, "We are we, and I am you." Coming back and trying to translate that to other people was impossible. And so there felt like this ego that was trying to communicate with the world around me was futile in itself. So it makes perfect sense.
I mean, it does. I mean, if we're talking, the you are me and I am you, we're just, different incarnations in a different form because we're all one. I mean, that's from what I gather, Gnosticism, and we are one. But but gosh, it's a hard concept when you're completely concreted in your ego is like I am me and you are you and this is that and that is that. And in order to get that wider perspective, sometimes you need that ego death of just like, there is so much more just beyond me. As much as I am me, we can be beyond that as well.
Once you empty your cup.
Yeah, exactly. You are able to receive more, right? Absolutely. This ego death, the little death. Oh my God, it's so important. I wonder how many people haven't experienced that little death. You know what I mean? And it almost feels like a travesty in itself. What would you say to somebody that wants to feel the sense of an ego death? Is it necessary?
No, it's not.
Depends on the person. Depends on the level. Depends on like where you're at in your own spiritual evolution. You know what I mean? Like, because I will say this for myself, right? Like, as you guys well know, I am someone who is not partaking in psychedelics. I have, aside from like going ahead and having some alcohol and smoking some weed, I haven't really looked for not being in a sober state of mind. You know what I mean? And, that's me up until this point. Who knows what the future may hold for me? But, like, for me, being aware of certain things, and you could say a spiritual nature to whatever extent, I haven't necessarily felt the calling for that sort of thing, at least yet. Who knows what the future may hold? But, yeah, so even, like, those who are necessarily aware, like, you can still go ahead and gain benefit out of, performing spiritual, magical, occult, whatever sort of activities. And of course, there's the layperson who, because they're not at a certain level, like if they have that sort of experience, like they may not be ready for it. They may not be able to go ahead and in crossing the abyss, right? And having a sort of ego death, come back and just like be functional. Like they could end up in a fucking ward. You know what I mean? Like they could totally be a completely different person and not necessarily for the better. Granted, you could have experience like that, be a completely different person, and it could be for the better, but it's all individual case by case basis. And, obviously psychedelics to whatever extent can go ahead and mimic that from my understanding, just from an informational point of view. But I'm sure, Drew, you can talk about it a bit more from an experiential point of view.
From my experience, when the little death happens, you do feel like you're dying. So the first thing that happens while you're having the little death is you feel like I may not come back from this. This may be the final moment where I cross over. And for those mediums or anybody that walks between worlds, when you feel that moment of, oh my God, this could be it. This could be it. This could be the final moment for me. I cross over and I never come back. Don't make the mistake I did. I promise you, you're going to come back. You will come back. Go. Take yourself where the spirits want to take you. It's all about that flow. When I first started to cross the abyss, I was talking to y'all about this earlier, about that feeling of like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here. Oh, I've made a huge mistake. I'm not, no. And I fought it. I walked away. I forsook a forbidden moment, the forbidden fruit. I refused to bite it. I was like, just like 3 inches from biting into the forbidden fruit. And I was like, poison, set it down. And it was fucking oxymoronic as hell, because the very thing I needed in the moment, I was like, nah, not for me. I'll save it for lunch.
You were a starving man that literally just refused sustenance. How dare you?
That's literally what happened. So, to those of you that are on the verge of crossing that fucking abyss, just bite the goddamn fruit. Don't do what I did. Don't walk away. Don't walk away. Because you might not ever go back. Very few magus ever cross the abyss. Very few. Most beg to differ that it takes 10 years. 10 years to just go somewhere. 10 years to go somewhere? I could go to Africa tomorrow if I just get on the plane right now.
I love this conversation so much. But I will say, from a just person standpoint, right? An ego standpoint, you don't necessarily have to do like the whole spiritual ego death, crossing the abyss. Like let's get out of the body and into, whatever else is out there.
Breathe. I am not the body. I am not the mind.
Exactly. You don't necessarily have to do that.
Love you.
Just, just the fact that, you know, becoming more worldly, learning of different cultures, learning of different peoples and the way different people live their life, traveling, that brings you a little closer to the fact that you're such a small piece in such a big world. And it kind of introduces a sort of ego death on its own. Because it's not just like, I am king of the castle. I know everything about everyone. It's like, the fuck I don't.
Exactly. That's kind of the fear I felt when I was just about to cross over, too. I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. I should know this. I'm not rightful. I do not have the honor. But we do. We all do. We all deserve it. We all deserve the awakening. Is it necessary? No, not at all. Most people go about their lives as if anyone else, and that's fucking okay. That's okay. We don't need to wake up. In fact, I would beg to differ that the person that wakes up will have a harder time in life than most people that don't.
I second this. Like,
I agree.
Full-heartedly.
Like the relationships I've tried to build since waking up, since seeing the truth with thine eye, it's forsaken in the self that when I try to explain these kind of things to people that haven't been there, nothing. They don't get it. It goes right over their head. It's a lonely path. That's fucking right, Nebula. It's fucking lonely. It's lonely because you sit there and you try to explain this to someone, and they're like, "Who the fuck am I talking to?"
Exactly.
It's more just like, do I need to call somebody? Is there medication you should be taking? Do I need to take you to a hospital? Like, and it comes from a good place, because if we're 100% honest, in our society, all of this is seen as crazy.
Bananas!
Fucking nuts. And so it's just and it's not seen as a positive thing. God, I love Twisted. We all do. Like, just salute, sir. Absolutely.
This man, I know this man because he's told me. He's like, he hasn't had an out-of-body experience, hasn't had a psychedelic experience, none of it. And he sits here and he listens to us go on our schizo rants all the time. The poor bastard.
Well, cheers,
I would say you are the testament that people are capable of understanding.
Oh yeah, I'll go ahead and say this, right? So to my own experiences, right? Like, I haven't necessarily had anything that's been like, oh, I've exited my body. I have gone ahead and traversed to another plane or realm of existence. No, like, all my shit has been here within my own body, you know what I mean? Or like, say, like, in my dreams, which, is the astral realm in itself. So technically you could say that is outside of, your body, but and I have an understanding, an inherent knowing within myself. I'm sure we all do from our own experiences, that your experiences that you personally perceive, are true. That you get that inner knowing, their intuition, however it manifests, and that other people's experiences, you can't necessarily judge them. You can't say it's batshit crazy necessarily, because everybody's experience is for themselves. And that is the difference between, spirituality as a term and understanding, as opposed to, say, dogmatic religion being imposed upon you, or external influences trying to tell you, hey, this is how things are. Being quote is all about your own experiences and having that connection with, say, the divine, God, the universe, source, whatever term you want to phrase it.
This is why you're the fucking true guru.
So yeah, that's
I just want you to know that.
Well, it's not only that. It's not only that, because the experiences are in his body, And technically, all of our experiences are inside of us as well, because the universe is in us and we are in the universe. It's paradoxical, but it is the truth.
We are
It's so
infinite.
beautiful. So
To
beautiful.
just backtrack to
I'll
that
go ahead
crossing
and
of the
state
abyss.
this myself.
Fucking hit it.
Go ahead.
I was going to go on more about the
Well, I'll
fucking
go ahead
Lono
and say
death.
this to
You go.
myself. Okay, yeah, and then we can go back to that. So I just want to say, like, in terms of like, so I haven't, exited my body or anything, right? I haven't. I will say that there was one moment when I was younger, though, of having like a partial OBE, and this tied to another sort of experience, like following the encounter with a shadow entity, right? But I did have a moment of like I felt a bit disconnected from my body, and however long it was like for a very small period of time, relatively. I didn't see my own body. I wasn't like, floating midair necessarily, but it was just that sort of like brief thing. So it's like a partial OBE.
Like discombobulation?
So there has been that. Yeah, like when I was younger, I mean? Like when I was younger, like, at that point, I did not have the information. I didn't have the knowledge of, like what I do now from research, from having looked at these sorts of subjects, from actually pursuing that, the knowledge seeking, as we all refer to it. But yes, I did have that sort of thing, but it wasn't full, and it was more so an effect. It wasn't something I went ahead and sought out purposefully. It was something that was spurred on by something else.
Right. It just hit you, right?
Oh yeah. Amongst other effects, in regards to that particular experience with the shadow entity. So just to go ahead and go over that. So when I was about 6 or 7, try to go ahead and sum it up as best I can. I had an experience with a shadow entity. I was about ready to go to sleep, and the door was open for my room. At this time, my grandmother is who raised me, and she had her door open as well. So the only light that was coming through was a blue light from her TV, because this is back, in the 2000s. And, she was the only other person in the house. She was in bed. I see the shadow of some sort coming from the hallway, coming towards my room. And it came in, and I was like, okay, that's not a person. My grandma's asleep. Like, as a kid, I knew these things rationally. And the shadow entity being just came along to my bedside. And I was looking at it, and I'm like, okay, what is this? And just, I had an inherent feeling of like, okay, this is not human. It does not have a physical form. What the hell is this? It is freaking me the hell out. I was paralyzed by fear. I went ahead and looked at the thing for however many minutes I did, and then I pretty much passed out due to said fear. After that, not just that night, but afterwards, I had many instances of sleep paralysis. That partially be, I mentioned foresight, seeing the future, deja vu, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, just like lucid dreaming, where I was aware that I was in a dream and that I died in dreams, and then I woke up, and like I had that following sleep paralysis, and I had to will myself out of it. So pretty much. While I have not had necessarily all the same sort of experiences as you, nor have any of us all had the same sort of experiences as each other, even if it is like, I haven't experienced ego death, we all have that same sort of core fundamental, hey, look, we've all gone through our own shit, and we're not going to go ahead and dismiss someone as crazy because of societal standards, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I fucking love about you, dude. You've fucking been humble this whole fucking time. To all the shit this server's been through, you've been fucking humble through it. You've been like, this is what I see from each angle, and this is what I have to offer to you from my opinion of that angle. Never, this is how that angle is, and this is why it's fucked. You've always been open open-hearted, man, and it's something that's above me because like I fucking try. I try on a day-to-day basis to be as open-hearted as I can be, but that shit, it fades, man. It fades in between the lines, and I appreciate that about you. That's fucking why I brought you on up and said like, "Hey, man, I need help. You've kept me in lines for so long," and I'm like, "Yeah, this is what I needed. I needed somebody to be like, this is the love I needed to share with others, right?"
That's why he's Twisted
Well, I'll go.
Temperance.
Yes, for those who are listening and aren't aware of the meme, pretty much like prior to very recently, I have been trying to associate myself with the Hermit Tarot card of like, hey, look, I'm just gonna do my own thing, be solo, and that sort of thing. And Divinium's been like, no, you're more so like Temperance, you're more so balanced, and like. While I can see the correlation or I've seen it before, I've still stuck to the whole notion of, oh, excuse me, yeah, I need to be a hermit in my own way,
Yeah.
But alas, recent revelations and all that sort of thing. Thank you. Recent revelations and all that sort of thing have come to be like, yeah, I'm a bit more temperance, even to the point of where my previous phone background was the hermit, and as of last night, I changed it to temperance. So yeah.
I win.
And
I win.
Yay!
yeah. Okay, so it all up, but like as per your points, Drew, right? Like all I have done is just I've had my own experiences, with Discord. I have gone ahead and, had highs, had lows, and I'm just sharing those sorts of experiences. Trying to be like, hey, look, whatever I've gone through, this is for you to potentially not go ahead and through it, but if you do happen to go through it, then hopefully it will be of assistance to give you some awareness, give you some, like, hey, this is how I can approach it, or B, just be like comfort in like, yeah, you know what, like I'm not the only one who's going through this sort of shit.
Exactly. Dude, fucking left and right too, man. You've been the guiding hand for this server. I think you underestimate it too, but like not generally, genuinely, you've been the guiding hand here at hand, and it's very ironic to me, is because as you were brought in from the spectrum of outside of the community we're trying to build, somebody called upon you to help us out. And that factor of you were just this mysterious figure kind of roaming around in staff because you had admin privileges the whole time. And the reason why we gave them to you was because we deeply needed your help. Because I had no idea what I was doing. And Lono was like, I got the guy for you. He's been around here for a minute. And I was like, all right, I love you, Lono, so I'll trust you. You bring in your dog. You bring him in, and I'll let him help me make the server. And this whole time, Twisted has been working behind the scenes with me, Obi, Sarah, and several others to build up this community. And it's been truly the saving grace. I swear to God. People don't realize how much Twisted has built up this community. I mean, fucking book club, events, announcements, constant trying to keep us organized. This man puts in the minutes within our staff catalog. He is the ledger. You are the still frames to this very structure of a community. And God forbid I didn't have you, this place would have went into chaos by now. Because my fucking ego is too big. It's too big. I'm fucking Scorpio half Leo. Like, it's impossible for me to be rational in such an emotional moment. When the drama comes up, the politics, social dynamics, what have you. Fucking, you've been the guy to sit there and go like, hey man, maybe it's not that way. Maybe you should see it from the other person's angle. And as a previous constant struggle for me being narcissism, the polar opposite of coming in and being like, this is how that person feels, and you really need to take into account of that, is different for me. And so that spectrum has made this community what it is so far. It fucking is, dude. It is. It's what's made this community. It's
and
weird,
I will just say I very much
agent.
appreciate Double agent. Well, I wouldn't say I'm actually a double agent. No, by no means. But like, yeah, I know. But like, in terms of first and foremost, I very much appreciate your high praise and all that sort of thing. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to go ahead and state two things to add to what you're saying. So you mentioned your zodiac sign of being Scorpio and all that. Well, I'm a Capricorn, so for those who know your astrology, put the pieces together and you'll kind of understand that.
Big Daddy.
But secondly, yeah, in regards to like, prior to being in here, right? Like Lono went ahead and he and I were chilling in like a previous server of ours, right? And with several friends, and we were pretty much just like hunkering down, just chilling, having a smaller sort of like friend group and interactions, right? And then like throughout that period of time, he would be like, "Hey, look, you should come over to this other server." And there's these chill group people. I think you vibe them, think you like them, and all sort of things, right? Truth be told, I was like, nah, man, I'm cool, man. Like, I don't need to go over there. I don't need to go ahead and do that. I'm fine just chilling with a small group of friends. But then at that, particular moment, he just went ahead and told me, like, hey, look, you should go ahead and check this out. And, for whatever reason, you can call it coincidence, you can call it synchronicity, you can call it whatever the hell you want to. I, went ahead and took the bait. And obviously the rest is history. So yeah, just man, like I am very appreciative of your own appreciation and that sort of thing. And yes, thank you very much.
You guys played it up.
We got to give credit to Lono.
I literally was like, yo, dude, we need someone for bot stuff. Can you come help? come to the chat. We're all talking, all the admins, everything. We're in the meeting right now. Like, quick. And you're like, okay, sure, whatever, fine, whatever.
Yes, Lono,
And
you were
that
pretty
day,
much like,
you were literally like, yeah, I could do this, and Drew was like, oh wow, thanks. Well, there it is.
That's exact. But for real, despite the bot commands and whatnot, dude, you came into the fucking community. You were like, I got you, fam. I see what y'all are up to. You're up to good shit. You're like,
you know what?
I don't know.
Actually, it was the damn log. It was the, hey, Twisted, can we get that thing on your server that says what people leave and what people join?
oh yeah,
and
the bot log for.
You still are doing the minutes from the day you joined. Holy cow! Fucking shit! Twisted Minuteman.
Minuteman.
Yes, Minuteman.
Well, I just want to go ahead and say this. I hope that in other sorts of contexts, that's not necessarily the case. But
we've been talking about Little Death and.
Oh yeah, oh shit! If you want to get into it, yeah, the orgasm is like the little death. You know what I mean? That sort of release and surrender and that sort of thing. Yeah, you're right.
He saw
opportunity. It knocked. You answered.
Yes, this is how it's supposed to be.
I think. Yeah, and like if we're gonna go ahead and get into it, right? Like that ties into our whole theme of like the whole crossing the abyss. It is about surrender. It is about that release. It is about letting go of those chains. That's sort of like, hey, look, these are tethers, and just being like, hey, look, I will let go. I will face the fear. Go ahead, bro.
Silent, and I've been hearing about this little death, but I've taken mushrooms. And to keep with the title and the theme of this topic, or what are we doing? I can't remember. It's familiar
the
cocktail.
Little Death.
It's familiar cocktail. I would like to tell a story of the time I drank something and saw a lizard. Well, not a lizard. It was a snake. It was a blind snake on my bathroom wall. Now, I was researching mushrooms in college, and being me, I was like, you know what, can you find enlightenment through mushrooms? And I tested it, and I drank mushroom tea 3 times, and just like Drew, I got to that point where I was like, no, I cannot know.
The truth! You can't know the truth!
Yeah, I got to that point, and it's weird. Okay, so I ended up, after like an 8-hour trip, this is the third time taking mushrooms. This is after me waking up in the middle of the night thinking I'm not in the same universe, literally going over to the neighbor's house, begging for shrooms, saying I need to go back. They give me fucking more shrooms. I take it. I have another fucking trip. I wake up, and then I take the rest of that shit, and I end up in my bathroom. I am balls deep. And I look up, and I look down, and I have like, I'm naked in the bathroom, but I have fucking sandals on and a white robe and like a fucking gold like tassel around my waist. And I look up, and there's just like a fucking cloud, like a cyclone cloud of fucking angels and demons, and they're trying to kill each other and chasing each other around. And I go all the way up to the top, and then I turn around, and there's just like this snake. It was a blind snake, didn't have any eyes. And I was just like, nope. I know what this is. I'm going to stare into the corner of the wall and go to actual hell, because I think this is fucking Yaldabaoth or whatever the hell that is. That fucking...
Weird, yeah.
I stopped myself.
What did it provoke from you? But what did it provoke from you?
I store into the walls. I store into the corner of the wall, like Peppermint Butler in Adventure Time. And I pushed open the door, and I stumbled because I was squatting in the shower, and I stumbled all the way to the other side of the wall, passed out naked for 4 hours on the floor of the bathroom. Woke up on Thanksgiving morning. There's a bunch of Native Americans in my dorm because my Native American friend had his family over, and hopefully smelled like dogs. So just like a whole bunch of like Native American random people in there. And they're just like, here, have a plate of food. I'm just like, what the hell just happened?
Wow, that makes sense. Thanksgiving. Thank you.
What have I been out the After that, I was like, dude, this food would taste gross on a normal basis, but what is this? Like,
because you were tripping, it was amazing.
No, I was off. I was totally sober. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I can't, like, I woke up, I was like, dude, I am totally myself, but if I don't feel like I've been washed and dried like 3 times.
Oh no, just the no-eyed snake. I recall that experience that I had with you, I believe just like doing a void reading or something, where something very similar appeared, if you remember. And that's the exact energy that I'm recalling. I'm just like, no. Fuck that thing. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay, so Lono, do you have any other additional details from that sort of experience? Did he cut out?
Huh? Could you say that again?
Oh, I was saying, man, like, do you have any additional details from that experience?
Yeah, I left a lot of notes for myself, and I took a bunch of videos. Like while I didn't know where I was and shit. And the second time I took mushrooms, I had a weird experience with an entity. And it started like, I can't remember when it was in that night, but it was during the second time I tripped balls. And I was on my bed, and I kind of passed out in the corner. But before I passed out, like all I heard was like this loud pinging noise, like, and like when you turn on a radio or like tinnitus, that kind of weird sound.
Yes, yep, white noise in the ears. Yeah,
White
yep,
noise.
a clear audience. Yeah.
and I fell back, and I just fell into like a sea of cameras, like a whole bunch of like security cameras. Like it was like an ocean. I fell through that and I ended up in this plane with a whole bunch of mist. Like the sky was black and the mist was white, and so it kind of like illuminated a little bit of things. And there was this fucking huge black seat and this dude that was a shadowed person that was like 10 foot tall. He was sitting on a throne, and in front of him was a whole bunch of TV screens and a whole bunch of other people and their lives, and my screen was just like static. And I turned behind me, I'm like, what the hell is this? What's going on? And he's like, remember, we're always watching. Like, we're always watching.
I was about to say that.
I just freaking like woke up and I was like, oh my god, what the fuck was that? I think it was an angel, but
just remember to file your paperwork.
He was a watcher.
Not gonna lie, like being like, you know, from our understanding of angels, them being more so like orderly relative to other sorts of entities, that sounds just about damn right.
Get a trip sitter.
Yes, always have a trip sitter.
But yeah, shit, like you know what? I know that Drew stated in the message that he has to dip out. So you know what? I think we covered quite a bit of ground, even like if it hasn't been like a full hour or anything. We covered quite a bit, and we could just go ahead and close it up. So, crossing the abyss. Any final thoughts regarding that? Anything that we've discussed? You know, floor is open for anyone to go ahead and share that. Yeah.
Let me give the outro.
Hey, man. You know what? Like, you were muted. You know, you said that you was getting ready to dip out, so I just did that. But of course, this is your thing.
This has been the Familiar Company Podcast.
Oh God!
Damn.
Thanks for listening.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
All right, I'm gonna cut it there.
So.
Subscribe for more.
I actually honestly, need to get that clip recorded. Yes.
Actually, I think Lono just covered it. That's the outro. Mm-hmm. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Let's get it.
All right, yeah.